And the great thing was I managed to plant it the same year that my messages to different groups of people in this country, and also not understanding or having been...
King Charles just flipped the script in front of millions. What he said to Keir Starmer has shattered Westminster and could be the final blow that brings down Britain's government. The broadcast begins like any other political debate, but within seconds, the atmosphere shifts. King Charles addresses Keir Starmer directly, and the exchange stuns an entire nation. The words cut through the noise of Westminster, echoing across every screen in Britain. Within minutes, clips flood social media. Comment sections explode with disbelief. Broadcasters scramble for analysis. Reporters rush to studios, and the phrase King Charles versus Keir Starmer dominates every headline. Millions sit in silence, trying to process what just happened. For the first time in living memory, a monarch challenges political leadership in real time. This isn't a ceremony. This is confrontation.
I'm reminded of the deeply touching letters.
And from that moment, Britain's political system begins to shake. The storm didn't appear overnight. 3 weeks earlier, frustration had already been spreading like wildfire. Discontent over leadership, rising pressure on public services, and endless political scandals created an atmosphere ready to ignite. Then came a single spark, a petition on the official Parliament website with one demand: call immediate general elections. Within hours, thousands sign. Within a day, hundreds of thousands join. By the end of the week, over 2 million names appear on the list. But instead of slowing, the momentum accelerates. Days later, the number reached 5.2 million signatures, more than the entire populations of Scotland and Wales combined. It became the largest petition in British history.
Unbelievably testing and challenging time.
From London to Glasgow, conversations shift from quiet frustration to collective action. The message becomes clear: Britain wants a voice. Inside Downing Street, tension thickens. Advisors describe scenes of exhaustion and panic. Strategies are rewritten hourly as public trust evaporates. The approval rating for the Prime Minister collapses to 18%, the lowest ever recorded in modern Britain. Pollsters warn of something far worse than unpopularity. 73% of citizens now believe the government has lost the right to govern. That isn't just political damage, that is a collapse of legitimacy. Markets react immediately. Investors begin withdrawing capital. Companies delay projects, and economic forecasts turn bleak. The pound dips sharply, signaling global concern. Financial reporters compare the drop to the shocks of the 1970s and the crash of 2008.
Is that underlying everything are...
Britain isn't just divided. Britain is losing confidence in the system itself. The battle for democracy moves online. Social media transforms into Britain's digital town square. Hashtags demanding elections trend worldwide for more than a week, generating billions of views. TikTok is filled with clips of teachers recording in classrooms, nurses speaking after overnight shifts, and small business owners sharing stories of empty stores and lost hope. None of these voices belong to politicians or influencers. They belong to ordinary citizens who've had enough. Instagram becomes a visual protest, flooded with slogans about accountability and fairness. YouTube channels explode overnight, gaining massive audiences by exposing government failures and explaining constitutional rules once considered too complex for mainstream discussion. What makes this moment extraordinary is unity. Former rivals stand shoulder to shoulder. Supporters of both major parties join the same marches.
And yet we've seen at the same time...
Campaigners from the Brexit and Remain movements chant together for the first time. Across every generation and region, a single demand connects everyone: give Britain back democracy. As protests expand, the economy trembles. Currency markets experience their sharpest drop in years. The pound falls 4% in a week. A sign of panic in global trading floors. The FTSE 100 loses £80 billion in value, wiping out months of progress. The Federation of Small Businesses releases data showing 71% of members want immediate elections, not out of ideology, but survival. Major corporations start quietly moving funds overseas. Banking sources confirm internal warnings about instability. Some executives call the crisis a silent recession. The Bank of England organizes emergency meetings to stabilize the situation. Reports warn that without political clarity, Britain could face a financial breakdown within weeks. Confidence, once the foundation of global credibility, now hangs by a thread. Then, the unthinkable happens. Protests spread beyond government offices to the gates of Buckingham Palace. Thousands gather peacefully, holding banners reading, "Charles, choose democracy." The crown protects the people, not politicians. The symbolism shakes the nation. For centuries, the monarchy has remained separate from political battles. But this time, silence feels like a statement. Public opinion shifts rapidly. Approval for King Charles drops below 50% for the first time since the coronation. International media capture the moment. The monarchy at the center of Britain's democratic storm. Inside the palace, advisors debate strategy late into the night. Some argue neutrality, others insist that inaction equals complicity. Tradition demands silence, but modern Britain demands leadership.
And I cannot thank you enough.
The crown faces a decision that could redefine its very purpose. The dilemma facing King Charles has no precedent. If the monarch dissolves parliament and calls elections, critics will accuse the crown of a political coup. Centuries of neutrality could vanish overnight. If the monarch stays silent while an unpopular government clings to power, the institution risks irrelevance. Younger advisors warn that the crown cannot remain passive during a democratic collapse. Without the people, the monarchy loses meaning. Traditional voices argue the opposite. According to them, the crown survives precisely because it avoids political engagement. Breaking that barrier, they say, would destroy the balance that has held Britain together for generations. Every option carries historic weight. Every outcome threatens consequences that reach beyond politics. The monarchy stands between chaos and continuity, a choice that could preserve or end a 1,000-year tradition. The world begins to take notice. European leaders hold private calls expressing concern. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz reportedly urges stability. French President Emmanuel Macron postpones a scheduled visit, citing political uncertainty. The White House issues a carefully worded statement emphasizing democratic accountability, diplomatic language for quiet alarm. NATO officials request updates from the Ministry of Defense, fearing that domestic turmoil might weaken the alliance's second-largest military power. Foreign investors pause commitments. Analysts in New York and Tokyo describe the situation as unpredictable and dangerous. International headlines label Britain a democracy on edge. For the first time in decades, the world questions whether Britain, the birthplace of parliamentary democracy, can still manage itself. Inside Westminster, tension escalates by the hour. Opposition members prepare a vote of no confidence, expecting an inevitable defeat for the government.
We have to make sure we try to do better in the future.
Traditionally, such a vote triggers resignation and elections. But rumors circulate that the Prime Minister might refuse to step aside, claiming the crisis is fueled by mob pressure and online manipulation. That single refusal could push Britain into constitutional chaos. Experts warn of a deadlock unseen since the 17th century. Parliament and government would stand in open opposition, both claiming legitimacy. In such a vacuum, only one figure holds the authority to break the tie: King Charles. Once again, all roads lead back to Buckingham Palace. As decisions stall, streets fill. From London to Cardiff, Manchester to Glasgow, cities witness gatherings of unprecedented size. Veterans march beside students. Parents bring children carrying handmade signs. The chants remain peaceful but powerful. Let the people vote. Democracy now. The Metropolitan Police request reinforcements from neighboring regions. Scottish authorities prepare for the largest demonstrations since devolution. Organizers announce Democracy Day, a nationwide strike including transport workers, healthcare professionals, teachers, and civil servants. Economists estimate the cost at £15 billion in a single day. For many, the strike represents more than politics. It symbolizes unity, a declaration that the British public still believes in democracy, even if politicians seem to have forgotten it. While crowds chant outside, the atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace turns solemn. Meetings stretch late into the night. Advisors deliver intelligence briefings and legal opinions. King Charles consults Lord Butler, Sir John Major, and Tony Blair, experienced leaders familiar with national crisis. Constitutional lawyers outline potential powers and risks. Every path appears uncertain. Drafts of a national address are written, revised, and rewritten. Each version represents a different future. One calls for elections, another maintains neutrality.
That is the remarkable thing about this. It always produces the best.
A third suggests reform without interference. Staff members describe quiet tension, a sense that history is unfolding behind closed doors. Every clock in the palace ticks louder as the decision approaches. Across the country, silence takes over. News anchors repeat the same line. Britain waits. Every household speculates about the coming announcement. Markets freeze, protests pause, and social feeds fill with theories. Some believe the monarch will dissolve parliament, others predict neutrality. Politicians appear in interviews, but offer no clarity. Analysts on television argue constitutional details once reserved for classrooms. The atmosphere feels surreal, like a nation watching its own story unfold in real time. The countdown begins. 48 hours that could determine whether Britain restores faith in democracy or falls into a deeper crisis. Beyond politics and protest lies a deeper issue. The crisis exposes the growing gap between centuries-old institutions and the digital generation demanding transparency. Technology gives citizens a louder voice than ever before. Movements form overnight, driven by connection, frustration, and hope. Power once reserved for parliaments now belongs to networks of ordinary people. This shift challenges every structure of authority. Can tradition survive an era where millions expect instant accountability? Can slow systems keep pace with real-time democracy? The situation surrounding King Charles is more than a political moment. It's a test of whether the old world can coexist with the new. Inside the palace, the moment arrives. Reports confirm that King Charles has reviewed every scenario. Advisors wait in silence as the final words of a historic speech are written. No one outside the inner circle knows which version will be broadcast. Some expect a call for national unity, others for elections.
I've always felt that we're over-exploiting them.
Every media outlet prepares for emergency coverage. Commentators call it the speech that will define the century. King Charles understands the magnitude of the decision. The crown stands at a crossroads between symbolism and action. Whatever comes next will be remembered for generations. As the world watches, Britain faces a moment that transcends politics. Centuries of stability meet the power of the modern public voice. The events leading to this point prove one truth: democracy cannot exist without trust. When trust breaks, even the strongest institutions tremble. The story of King Charles, Keir Starmer, and the government crisis is more than a headline. It is a reflection of an entire era, an age where leadership, legacy, and public will collide on live television. Now the question moves beyond Buckingham Palace. If placed in the same position, what decision would restore faith? Should a monarch protect democracy by stepping in, or protect tradition by standing back? History waits for no one. The answer will not come from palaces or parliaments alone, but from every citizen who chooses to speak. Comment sections open across every platform. Viewers share opinions, theories, and hopes for the nation's future. Some call for reform, others for renewal, but all agree on one thing. The next chapter of Britain's story begins with action, not silence. And as this moment fades into history, one truth remains. Leadership is not defined by titles, but by courage when silence becomes impossible. The final words of this crisis are yet to be written, but the outcome will echo across generations. So the question stands: what choice should define the future of Britain?